Friday, the week, almost done. For some of you, it is done. It is Barney, Shynkaruk, Colson, Allen, and we're going to have special guest co-host Greg McCulloch from Piffles podcast with us for the next 3 hours as we talk sports. What do we got for you today? You're asking for Nelson Holmes. Well, when Greg's in, we're going to talk Riders. We're going to talk Jake Maier coming on board. That's a done deal now. Elsewhere, things around the team. Ryan Switzer. We're calling him Mr. Swift Current, Mr. Southwest Saskatchewan, Mr. something like that. Fantastic guy. Works closely with the Swift Current Broncos. Been around the Western Hockey League forever. He'll come on. We'll talk about all the WHL trades and then just everything in the WHL now. Where's everything going to fall? Who's the wagon? If we're sprinkling on the WHL, I don't know who I would throw my money on now. Is it still Everett? I don't know. Hour two. Why don't we get out and talk to Luc Mullinder? It's been a while since we've talked to the color voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders here on 620 CKRM. More hockey in hour two, and then hour three, we go and talk to Farhan Lalji, which I think I heard correctly that he is at the Ohio State-Texas game tonight, and then from there he's going to an NFL game. I allegedly. Just preface it with allegedly. Farhan Lalji coming on, and then senior hockey fans in hour three. Josh Miller and I talk senior hockey, the senior hockey report for Future Ford and Melville and coolbet.co. The provincial brackets were revealed yesterday. Teams now know who they're playing in provincials. Some of you that don't know much about senior hockey are like, I don't get it. The people out there and the vast majority of Saskatchewan people know about senior hockey. When Greg comes on here, we're going to talk about it too. He's a small town guy. Provincial senior hockey is huge. So Millsy and I are going to talk about games going on this weekend, what happened last weekend, and then provincials in the senior hockey report in hour three. So a lot to get to. Greg brought you back. This is episode 2 for you here on the SportsCage. What were the reviews like in your world after what was it, New Year's Eve?
Oh, it was great you brought the meatball back, I guess. But no, actually, I did better than I thought I was going to do, I guess, for lack of a better term. I treated it like it was a live Piffles and went from there and tried not to curse on the air, which is always what I try to do on Piffles.
This week for Piffles podcast was a big one for you guys, number wise, and the guest.
Episode 300 and 9 years. That's how long we've been doing it. 8 seasons, thanks to COVID.
Jeez.
I ran the numbers there the other day. We had the Riders in that time. It's hilarious. 70 wins, 69 losses, 1 tie. Like, just boring football. It's Rider football, but you gotta love it anyway. But we had Corey Mace on. It's good. It was the first time we actually ever had the head coach on. Usually the Riders are very protective of him, but they said, "Hey, we'll throw you a bone on your on this momentous occasion." And unfortunately, I couldn't make it. My day job got in the way. But Steve and Alex had Corey on for 15 minutes, and we wish we could have had him for a lot longer because he's an awesome interview.
Isn't he? Like, we had him on yesterday, and if people didn't catch that or catch the Piffles one, you can go listen to them both and compare. And then when we were kind of doing our production meeting, and I was like, there's a lot to talk to him about football, especially with Jake Maier. Which was kind of a foregone conclusion that he was going to sign here. But then, Trevor Reed getting released, going down, signing. And I said, and let's kind of go get a look behind Corey Mace. Like, just let him open up a bit. And so the one I had, and it fit in perfectly, was when the last time he skated was. Because I heard that he was a big Flames fan. He was in Calgary. So we went with that, and then he's growing his hair out. He said he was getting a cut, though, like if it's it today or whatever. Like, his hair is getting a little bit longer because a lot of people, talk about how tight it is. Like, it almost looks like it's drawn on, like
painted on.
Yeah, and then it's I liked it. He's kind of got a little growth up top, but it's funny. And then the other thing too, and I don't want to speak like when I'm away from here and you get to talk to guys, but I actually played hockey with Brett Lawther last night. And we were chatting a bit. Lawther actually had 3-6 snipes, like 2 backhand shelf goals are really nice. And he was talking to somebody else, and I chimed in, and he was just talking about how awesome Mace is and the coaching staff. Like it's sincere, it's real. What everyone sees out there and what the players are feeling.
You can tell there's a giant difference. Like Craig Dickinson was known as a player's coach, and Corey Mace is known as a player's coach, but they are different players' coaches. Like they have a different aspect, different mantra to bring into the room, and players will legit run through a wall for Corey Mace.
Yeah, and that's what you want, right? For sure. So that's good. You can go back and listen to that if you missed it yesterday. And like you said, you guys had episode 300 with him on. The Jake Maier thing, what was your take on that? I'm
surprised it's only 1 year. Going into the season with both your quarterbacks as quote-unquote lame ducks just seems very weird to me. But I guess if you're not going to sign QB 1 to 2 years, why are you going to sign essentially his backup for 2 years? So I have a feeling either they decided not to for Trevor, or Jake decided I'm going to see what happens next year if I'm going to be the starter here or not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I guess you could always renegotiate. I've never worked a CFL or a professional contract, but maybe it's just something where it's like, let's wait and see what happens. You are here for the long term on maybe a handshake deal, but if this is his last year, which I don't think it is, then we can kind of redo everything. It's because what was the word going around? 165 in hard money,
something like that. Yeah.
We'll talk to Farhan Lalji. He's got his finger on things in hour 3, but 165 is what the rumor was going around hard money, and then 59 in incentives.
Definitely, his contract will definitely heavily playtime bonuses, because unfortunately we may have had Trevor Harris for 2 years, but we've only had him for one technically full season worth of games. So chances are Jake Maier might be in there quite a bit. Two quarterback league. I asked Colson to dig up if there was any word on marketing money. That's the big thing, marketing money. And then my thing, and we can talk to Luke about it an hour or two, and even Farhan. It's like the salary cap. It's like, who cares? Go over it. It's not a cap.
Go up until, what is that, 100,000 over, and then it's
100,000. Then it's then you start losing picks. Yeah.
So go 99,000. Be a cowboy every year. Pay whatever, and then circle back. That's how I would run it, but maybe that's why I'm in the position that I'm in. Hockey-wise, do we follow in the Western Hockey League trades?
There's been a lot. Holy cow. I don't remember it being that busy ever. Or maybe I'm paying more attention, but it was wild.
It was.
That Central Division it's going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be tough for any team that kind of doing that triangle, the Calgary, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat. So we're going to, Ryan Switzer standing by from Swift Current. We're going to bring him in. We'll talk a lot about the Western Hockey League trades. The last thing is, we were just talking before just about our lives, and tonight, big clash. If you're in around the Hamilton Arena, I think it's 7:45 puck drop. Pat Blues, Martinsville Marauders. Love the community of Martinsville. Always have. Awful jerseys. And color concept. Sorry, everyone from Martinsville. I've never gotten why they haven't gone away from that color concept. We're playing at the Hamilton Arena, Bantam AA. Like, you know how parking is ridiculous there at the best of times.
I could throw a rock and hit that place from my house.
Can you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do you got any cold ones for a little pregame? Me and some of the dads were asking.
Meet you in the parking lot, all right?
Yeah, or the tennis courts there. But we're there, and then you said you're going up to Warman tomorrow.
Warman for the winter knockout cheer competition for my daughter. Yeah.
Okay, and is it at the Legend Center?
It's not called that anymore, but yes, it's in that building. Yes.
It's Warman Home
Center,
yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
We talked about it on Monday because I came off being in Warman Sunday night. Have you been in that facility?
Of course, yeah.
Have you had the noodle bowl from the concession?
I have not had the noodle bowl, but I keep on saying I'm going to do the noodle bowl, and I have never done it.
Okay, it's you're in luck. Get the noodle bowl. Actually, double up on the spring rolls if you can. It is such a hidden gem. It's like a hockey rink-ish concession with an unbelievable noodle bowl. It's like I know my food. It's on the list now to hit every time. So you're going up for cheer. We got hockey. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, let's go out to the lovely community of Swift Current, Saskatchewan, and we'll have Ryan Switzer in. It is the all-new Sports Cage. If you're watching that stream today, it's like the kids. It's hat and gum day for me. I actually did start the program with gum in, had to take it out, and I got the lid on. And as always, we are on the mighty 620 CKRM. Welcome back, Sports Cage. Good heads up, by the way, Alan. We do have 2 tickets to the Regina Pats Portland Winterhawks game tomorrow underneath the orange top. If you want to go, we are going to go until about 4:20 on those. Text in 936-6262 saying I want to go to the Pats game, and just maybe if you want to really butter up Alan, the sheriff, let him know what a fantastic job that he does. So 2 tickets to the Regina Pats Portland Winterhawks tomorrow night. In the Western Hockey League this evening, the Pats are in Moose Jaw. 6:30 starts right here on 620 CKRM with the pregame show. Dante DeCaria. Saskatoon's in Calgary. Prince Albert's in Edmonton. Red Deer's in Medicine Hat. Portland's in Brandon. And the Lethbridge Hurricanes are in Swift Current to take on the Broncos. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. It's Friday, no need to cook. Get a Western Pizza wheel or any of the Greek favorites that you love from your local Western Pizza. The pickup specials are a solid. That's a pro tip for you. Grab the pickup specials. Ryan Switzer standing by. If you're watching the stream, now this guy and I worked together in radio back in like 1998, 99. If you've listened to the show before, we've had some good fun with that. I gotta tell you, Switzer, we've had you on like 3-4 times in the cage now since then. That's a good look. You aged well with that look. Thanks, the hair looks good. You know, the nice specs, facial hair suits it. You're doing a good job out there. And you're alderman, aren't you?
City councilor, yeah. I was fortunate enough to get reelected for another term, and they say if you don't have talent, you got to have work ethic, and I worked as hard as I could last term, and I'm glad that Swift Current's given me another chance, and I appreciate the compliments on my appearance. I don't know what you're doing though today, man, because if there's one thing I remember about you, you got a glorious head of hair, like glorious, with a little bit of natural curl and everything, and you wearing a hat over that head of hair is like a jack dude wearing a big bulky sweater. Like you got to show off what you got, brother.
It's just you didn't have time. You know what the thing? I had a massage. I had a massage between 11 and 12, and then the hair got all out of control, and didn't have any product, and I didn't want to come on here looking like a hobo. What did you run on? Like what were your what was the main platform? Like you said, hard work, but what are people in Swift Current concerned about these days?
We got to get a new aquatic center first and foremost, and we're hoping to get a federal grant to be able to do so. But with the current state of federal politics, who knows where that's going to lead. But Swift Current has some aging facilities that have served us really well, but it's time for some new ones, and a new aquatic center is big, and I was a big supporter of that and doing what we can to make that happen. And of course, you got to look after infrastructure. You know, the things that you don't see and touch, the water in the pipes and everything, those are kind of getting old as well. So just some flashy new facilities and just some meat and potatoes was kind of what I ran on this time around, and I'm glad that Swift Current gave me another go at this. It's been a challenge, and I've enjoyed it.
What? So hey, this could be 20 minutes on civic politics and Swift Current.
This is politics. Great. Let's go.
Where there isn't if I remember correctly, there isn't an indoor aquatic facility in Swift Current, is there? Like, what do people use? The Days Inn?
No,
like, where is there one right now?
There's one, and it's about in the mid 40s for years old. It's attached to the high school, the aquatic center.
Oh, okay.
Clearly, you didn't maintain that physique by swimming laps when you were in Swift Current. It was the beer league hockey that did it for you. But yeah, we have an aquatic center. It needs a little bit of love, and we've put a lot of love back into it. But it's a facility that's old and tired and ready to move on.
This physique was established at Caddyshack and the Acropole. and the old Mr. Sub. I don't know if that's there. I hit that place.
No, we lost Mr. Sub. That is not there. There's an extreme pita there, but back in the day, you have the Shack Attack downtown Swift Current, and you follow that up with some 2 a.m. Mr. Sub. I mean, those were the good old days, and I'm glad you brought that up. Your time spent in Swift Current, because we had some good times together, and I bet in North Battleford right now, Grant Shute is watching the two of us here on the SportsCage with a proud dad, an old mentor of both of ours. So
we had such a good crew, because we had Everett Hinley, who's now the education minister. Just solid dude. We had Regan Bartel for a while before he shipped off to Kelowna. Regan Bartel. And John Keane came in after, and we've had Keener on the show, and Keener's like Mr. Western Hockey League now. Who else am I missing? That was Kim Johnston in the morning was good. Then we had the office staff was just such a party in Swift Current. There was and for a city that didn't really give her, we gave her in that city quite a bit. People are gonna hey, get on with it. Let's go back to civic politics. No, Western Hockey League. If you're watching the stream, you are in is it the iPlex? Is that what it's?
Innovation Plex. Yeah, Innovation Credit Union has the naming rights. Innovation Plex.
Innovation Plex. And then Greg and I were kind of trying to figure out where you were. I'm like, is he in the broadcast booth? And I'm like, no, the broadcast booth is on the other side. You're in one of those corner little suites that you guys made, or is it the audio booth that you're in?
Yeah, this is actually where I work out of. This is the production room at Innovation Plex. So we have all the stuff that operates our in-venue scoreboard, which is over this shoulder here. It's over there, and then this is the view that our music guy and our PA announcer have for home games. 32
trades in the Western Hockey League since Saturday, Colson's saying, unreal. And Schweitzer, when we go back to the days where the Swift Current Broncos were thinking about moving Lawrence Nicolet for maybe one other guy. Those days are so long gone. There is massive parts going. The Broncos kind of made a three-way I saw late. Let's start with the Broncos and what they did. Probably strategic and smart for that franchise.
Well, yeah, the Broncos heading into trade deadline, a lot of the experts were really wondering what they were going to do, because you always have to wonder. You head into this time of year, is this team going to be a buyer or a seller? And Swift Current, people weren't sure what direction they were going to go. They have a strong group of 19-year-olds. But do you take those and do you flip them and build up your draft pick cupboard, or do you build around them? And what Chad Leslie certainly did this year was build around and make some additions. And you referenced that three-way trade between the Red Deer Rebels, the Swift Current Broncos, and the Moose Jaw Warriors. You bring in a stud offensive defenseman like Hunter Mayo, really, really hard to play against, who's going to be one of the 20-year-olds on this team, and Trey Wilkie from the Red Deer Rebels as well, who's an 06 forward who's going to make the Broncos tough to play against, and perhaps put up some points as well. Of course, to get good players, you got to give up good players, so they lose 17-year-old Ty Copeland, who is going to score a lot of goals in the Western Hockey League. He goes to Red Deer, and 20-year-old Eric Johnston, who's a Regina guy. He moves a little bit closer to home as he heads to Moose Jaw in that three-way trade.
You look at all the trades, though, it looks like the Central Division, that is going to be a bloodbath, like Barney and I were discussing. It seems like they're building up for an absolute slugfest. You look at what Lethbridge is doing, what Messinhat is doing. Who's going to come out of there when it's all said and done? It's wild.
Well, and there's so many X factors, but it's interesting you bring that up, because and those teams didn't just start this past week. They've been having this trade war for a few months now, going back to the offseason, I think, when the Calgary Hitmen pulled Connor Vidston out of Swift Current for a 2-3-4 return. But you look at those three teams go at it, and I think a lot of longtime hockey fans in Swift Current, Regina, and Moose Jaw are just going to look at the deals they made and think, oh, that's cute. Because, there was that three-way arms race in 2018 when Regina was hosting the Memorial Cup. Moose Jaw had reached the apex of a rebuild, and Swift decided to go all in to augment some good players there. So it's not unprecedented what these three teams in Alberta are doing and what they have done, but it's going to make for some great hockey down the road. And you asked me, who's going to come out of that. Flip a coin. I mean, there's, injuries are likely going to happen and other things, but Shoot, I like what Medicine Hat did. They go and they pull Tanner Molendyk out of Saskatoon. I don't think they paid an outrageous price to get him. Him and Misha Volotovsky, two vets who have deep playoff experience. And Med Hat's a tough out at the best of times, and that building can be really hard to play in the postseason. So I like what they did, but again, taking nothing away from Lethbridge and Calgary, who have stacked teams as well.
You get to see Lethbridge this evening and how the Broncos, I guess, kind of match up. We are still only in January. January hockey and April hockey is totally different. Like you said, injuries could come around the corner. The other thing, the thing I like maybe a little bit more, and full disclosure, I don't know the Calgary and the Medicine Hat team front to back like I would know a Regina team here or Moose Jaw last year. But Lethbridge has Unger in net, right? And he was so good last year for Moose Jaw when they needed him because they had a good team. But there was the game against Swift where he kind of stole that one. And then as they went on and the Portland, like there was the one period in Moose Jaw where he stood on his melon against Portland. So just long way around it, Swites, like that goaltending piece. I don't know enough about Medicine Hats and Calgary's. What do you think on the goaltending front between those three?
Well, I got to asterisk what I said about Medicine Hat and them looking good with if everyone gets healthy. Medicine Hat made a move early in the season to pull Harrison Menigan out of Lethbridge. And he's week to week right now on the WHL injury report. So that's a big if for Medicine Hat, is if he comes back, and if he comes back 100%, he's one of the finest goaltenders in the Western Hockey League. So Med Hat's looking good there if Harrison Menigan comes back. Calgary Hitmen, they go and pull Daniel Hauser out of Wenatchee. Hauser was a big part of the former Winnipeg Ice playoff run a few years ago as just an 18-year-old goalie. And he's fun to watch as a goaltender. Nowadays, goaltending, it's the big kids, it's the 6'3" guys with the big equipment. Hauser's kind of a throwback. He's a smaller guy, he's under 6 foot, really athletic goaltender, but he's been dependable in deep playoff runs. So Calgary's looking good there. But you touched on Jackson Unger, and we in Swift, we're not big fans of his. He tends to bring his A game to Innovation Plex here in Swift Current, whether he's with the Moose Jaw Warriors. And we're going to see him here tonight, probably with the Lethbridge Hurricanes. They in Moose Jaw, they called him the Unger Taker. I'm not sure if that nickname is going to follow him to Lethbridge. I liked it, but yeah, out of the three of them, all three of those teams, they're good from the crease out, and their blue lines are all really stacked as well.
Text line is going here. We got one from Blake in BC. I figure that's British Columbia. He wants to meet you.
Yes, I know he does.
He can't wrap his head around. I don't understand why the first place team in Saskatoon was a very defined seller, and it goes back to what we were talking about on this program a number of times, is because Colin Priestner, who's new to the game, he gets it. And if you asked a Jason Ripplinger, if you asked a Curtis Hunt, up in Steve Hildebrand is with the Saskatoon Blades, who is a longtime trainer, now assistant general manager. You get it. If you don't have the 3 deep lines or 4 lines, and the league, you can't go. Like, maybe you can win one round, right? Swites, how many times have you seen that around the league where it's like you can you can get into the playoffs, maybe win one round, maybe 2, but to win 3 and 4 is extremely tough, and you got to be built like these teams are now.
Well, and indeed, and to Balake's question there with the Saskatoon Blades, like with the lineup that they had sitting in first place, they probably could have got into that 2 spot in the Eastern Conference, and maybe won a playoff series after that, and got themselves to the second round and the sold out crowds and all the playoff gravy that comes with that. But the thing with Saskatoon, had they not made those moves, had they not shipped off Tanner Molendyk and Ben Reich and all those other guys, they would be looking rough for a really, really long time. And I think Colin Priestner did a really, really good job of replenishing the draft picks that he spent to go deep into the playoffs last year. 2025, Saskatoon didn't have their first. And I think in the 2026 draft, Saskatoon didn't even have a pick for the first 6 rounds. And had they not sold off those assets, they would have been in deep trouble down the road. And it would have been some really, really lean years in Saskatoon. So Priestner, it's tough. I know some fans don't understand. Why would you do that? You're in first place and you sell. Quite frankly, it was a move that he needed to do for the long-term health and viability of his business.
I think Moose Jaw did a great job too. Jason Ripplinger.
Mm-hmm.
He's been around. Like now the picks that they have over the next 2 years are great. How much do you know about the BC and the US division there? Like when I had Keener on
it a little bit. Yeah.
Like it's
Keener would know more than I would. He sees it, and yeah, go ahead with your question, man. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like when I had him on, that's where I was kind of like, the BC division is so good. Like, man, it's deep, and it's going to be an arms race there. And then Spokane, kind of and double down with offense, adding Cristal. From what I see, everyone talks about Everett and how good they are. I guess I was a little surprised, like a team like PG didn't go more in. But from the teams that you've seen in BC and what you've heard, like, what do you expect out of BC in the US? Everett, yeah.
And Spokane made a move to close the gap with a guy who can turn a game on its head with Andrew Crystal that you mentioned there. They made that big buy to get Crystal out of Spokane and maybe put themselves in a bit more of a competitive series with Everett. But again, all things being equal, Everett's a juggernaut. We saw them in Swift a few months ago when they did their tour through Saskatchewan. They thundered through Saskatchewan. Swift Current was their last stop, and they looked fresh as a daisy. They're a fundamentally sound organization. They got a great general manager in Mike Fraser, a guy who actually used to be a scout in Swift Current once upon a time. And they're the team to beat out west. Prince George made a pretty big buy in getting Ben Wright out of Saskatoon. And Prince George is a well-coached organization. Mark Lamb is out there, the coach and general manager. They'll be a team that goes deep into the playoffs, but that Western Conference, it's Everett's to lose. They're stacked and they're good.
All right, buddy. What's the vibe crowd-wise this year in Swift? Because that's always a thing. Smaller town and cold nights, people don't drive in. But then, when things start getting buzzing, everyone wants to be involved. Like, what's that like been like in Swift?
We're good right now. We're healthy. We, as I referenced earlier, there was that 2018 run where, Swift Current ended up winning an Edge South Cup, but the price that they paid was heavy. We had 5 pretty lean years that followed that. But last season, the team made a big trading deadline buy by bringing in Connor Geekie, who's now playing in the NHL, and he's a regular in Tampa Bay. And bringing Geekie in just kind of gave this organization and the hockey community some swagger back, and it was fun to go to the rink. The games were exciting, and that's carried on a bit into this year. I think Swift is really looking for some consistency in the second half. They addressed that at the trade deadline by bringing in some guys that can provide that, and it's fun. You can see behind me, this isn't the biggest barn in the league by any stretch, but it can certainly be the loudest when 2,500 get rolling in here and get rocking. It's a fun place to be, and we've had that this year. It's been fun. Win or lose, hit the booze. Let's go.
Hit the shack. And then the swagger in that town in Geekie came with the tinted visor, right? As soon as you have tinted visor guy on your team, you got instant swagger.
Oh yeah. And he was a great showman too. Like he gets that people are coming to the rink to be entertained. He had his quirky routines, pregame and postgame stuff. And yeah, he helped really make it fun again. And he's a special human being, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are really lucky to have him.
Swites, it's always a pleasure. I know I said I'm going to get there for a game this year. I don't know when. Hey, you know what? Actually, my daughter's playing there's like a Saturday, Sunday game. So I got to spend the night. Why don't we go have a pint somewhere in Swift and chat about the old days?
A few pints at a few different places, brother. Let's go. Yes.
Right on. Mr. Swift Current, City Councilor. He's building a pool himself. I think that's how he started. Ryan Switzer, thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, fellas. Yeah.
Good stuff on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Crazy for all you Western Hockey League fans. Some people are chiming in here on the text line. The Giants are going to surprise people. That is a team, full disclosure, I know nothing about. The Vancouver Giants sitting in 7th place right now, 19 wins, 16 losses, 4 overtime losses. 42 points. Giants are going to surprise. It's everyone wants to avoid. Everyone wants to avoid Everett.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like they're probably the wagon this year in the WHL. Like, but could the Giants surprise? Sure. Could any team surprise? That's the thing about playoff hockey. You never know.
And it's funny because people are talking about it in Bantam division. They talk about it in Pee Wee senior. It's like you're trying to want to get into a spot where you don't have to play the juggernaut. I'm sure in the junior B ranks, as we talk about it, we talk about the All-Star game for the Prairie Junior Hockey League coming up tomorrow in Carrot River at 4:00 tonight. Regina Extreme Capitals in Assiniboia 8:15. What I was getting at is a team like Fort Knox is 45 points, kind of running away with things. People want to avoid them in that league. The SJ is the league that I don't know because Melfort's on a crazy what is they lost, but their streak was like 17 or something in a row. So good. The SJ this year, I feel, is a league that you could have a team that's third, three or four slot now goes on a heater and runs, kind of like teams did against Flin Flon last year.
Well, that's any sport, really. Look at what's going on in the NCAA playoffs right now. Your championship game is probably going to be 8-10. Like, it's just...
Ohio.
Once you play those games, it can go either way.
Football's the best because it's like...
Well, it's one game. It's
one game plan.
Yeah.
Couple bad, fumbles or it's just a storm that you don't want. Ohio State, Texas tonight, -6. Ohio State. Their Texas is plus 193. I don't know enough about those two teams, but I did hammer Notre Dame last night. Third quarter, it was tied.
Were you white knuckling through that fourth quarter or what?
Oh, yeah. And then the Penn State interception with under a minute left.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I was like, did that guy just throw a pick? Because I sprinkled on it just a little bit just to kind of make that last quarter really interesting. And I didn't know enough about both teams. And then I was like, I should have took Penn State. And then I'm like, did he just throw an interception there? And then that was a clutch kick, though.
Oh, beautiful kick. And it was funny because they were trying to figure out what his length is. And like, yeah, even if it's like a 58-yarder, they're still going to go for it. I'm like, well, I guess you don't have to worry about the rouge in American football. So
college football, when it comes down to a field goal, everything is off. It's like, can this guy kick? Can the snap? There's so much pressure involved. You got guys trying to block.
And since Auburn, Alabama, you have to factor in the returner too.
Yeah.
Iron Bowl.
I think when we talked to Farhan in hour 3, I think he's at the game tonight, Ohio State, Texas. Maybe he can shed some light before I go and double down on what I won last night. It is the all-new Sports Cage. It's Greg, Barney, Colson, Allen. We're giving away Pat tickets. You want to go to the Pats Portland game tomorrow? You still got about an hour to get into that. 936-6262. Just text in and tell Allen how much you love him and the hard work he does, and you want to go to the Pats game. We are streaming sportscage.com, and we are on the home of the Regina Pats, 620 CKRM. You can always have your say on the text line 936-6262, like Dale from Red Deer did, starting the new year on a positive note, enjoying the Sports Cage. Thanks, Dale. He likes having you on, Greg. Are you related?
I don't think so, no.
Do you have any relatives in Red Deer?
I'll have to go down the old family tree, find out.
He's happy with Jake, only a 1-year deal. Hopefully he proves me wrong and doesn't suck. Gladly prove me wrong. Speaking of Jake Mayer, you and I talked about it after start. Just a 1-year deal.
1-year deal, yeah.
Word is Farhan can maybe confirm $165K, 59-ish in incentives. I'm actually really curious on the marketing money, but maybe that's just me. Today he did meet the media. Today Dave Thomas had a chance to ask some questions. The first question here, he talks about his success at Mosaic Stadium. Career-wise, he's a plus 100 QB rating at Mosaic.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the fan base does an amazing job of making the experience uncomfortable for a visitor. So, in terms of the game day atmosphere as a visitor, it's always been a challenge. But no, I mean, the stadium is amazing. I always refer to Saskatchewan as kind of the mecca of our league. You know, you hear about all the different places to play and other sports leagues, whether it's Madison Square Garden or Staples Center or wherever that may be. For the CFL, I view Saskatchewan like that. So it does raise your level of play when you walk into that type of environment. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what it's like to be on the cheer side of that type of environment. So yeah, it's been fun to be a competitor, but I know it's going to be even more fun to be on the same side now and make the fan base proud.
Interesting.
Well, chew on that, Winnipeg. I'm sick of hearing about their stadium, but
wow, trust me. What's his name's going to slide into the text line here from the 204 number right away. But yeah, he talks about, which you would think, if you're a competitor, you want to go into like that kind of hostile and prove them wrong and kind of shove it up,
Well, look at the Stampeders' rivalry with the Riders since the days of Henry Burns.
Yeah.
Like, old Mosaic or Taylor Field was rocking with the Henry chants. Bo Levi Mitchell, hostile environment. And Jake inherited that when he came in here. Mosaic, when it's going, and it still does not have the feeling of the old girl. I'm sorry, it still doesn't. But when Mosaic is rocking, it is loud. That playoff game, even though it wasn't full, was loud. Probably the loudest I've heard that stadium since its inception.
I was trying to kind of think to go back on like quarterbacks that I remember that would always come in here and have a game.
Spurgeon win.
I don't remember Spurgeon win. I was going to say Casey Printers. I remember one time came in, torched us.
And he also had some really bad ones. No, Spurgeon win. It's a running joke because he was a third string quarterback, and for some reason we would knock the first two guys out, and Spurgeon win beat us twice on two different teams. It's players, especially quarterbacks. They come into Regina, Saskatchewan, and they want to perform because they want to shut up that crowd.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. If you're a solid competitor, that's exactly what you want. More from Mayer. He talks about the generic question, what it means to him joining the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah, I mean, it is a reset. I mean, the truth be told, I mean, it's I had some good times in Calgary. I obviously had some struggles and just a little bit of both. I feel like I've been on both sides of the fence early in my career, which has given me so many valuable life lessons and experiences that are now going to carry me in this next chapter, this next bit of a reset for my career. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then I think what is allowing me to be as comfortable and confident as I am walking into this situation is there is a lot of familiarity with people in the building here. It's kind of taking a step back and starting over a little bit, but also with people that I know are good people and people that I trust and respect, and I know they have the ability to get the most out of me. And that's something that I'm just really looking forward to being a part of and just help any way I can.
Interesting, right? That reset.
Well, it's funny. I think it almost feels like a veiled shot of Dave Dickinson talking about being in a Mark Mueller offense, because Mark Mueller is probably who he's talking about right there, because he had his best season was under Mark Mueller.
Funny you say that, because the next clip, he talks about his relationship with one Mark Mueller.
If it weren't for his guidance early in my career, I really don't think I'd be where I'm at right now. So when I knew when I found out this opportunity was even possible, again, it was a very simple decision for me. I love his company. I love his coaching. And it's just going to be something that's going to transition pretty smoothly. It's just,
when we talked to Coach Mace yesterday, I don't know if you guys talked about it on Piffles with it. It's if you're using a football field as a bit of an analogy, it's like you're starting at midfield, instead of starting at the goal line with a new team, a new city, a new system, a new coach, everything. Like, you're kind of, they get each other.
Well, we didn't talk specifically about that because obviously when we had him, Mayor wasn't signed yet, but it was about the consistency coming back, like the Harris, all the coaches coming back except for JC Sherritt. You want that continuation from last year because they made a lot of steps last year. So let's go further. Like, they were fighting for first in the West. This year they probably should be seen as one of the favorites to come out of the West.
Yeah, I think so. So many donkeys out there on social media and all that. It's like, oh, Harris is old. AJ, well, that's slow. It's like, hey, do you want to come like a Make-A-Wish thing and come and try and tackle him? All the best running backs are not always the fastest.
No,
doesn't matter what football that you're after. Kind of shifty, but if you got a big guy that no one wants to tackle, yeah. Okay, what's the next one here? Perfect on the heels. He talks about his relationship and building that relationship with Trevor Harris.
I'm a big fan of Trevor. We go back and forth even now over the last couple of days through text. We share a lot of similarities that we didn't know before, communicating more with each other. So I think the quarterback room and that dynamic is going to be really, really strong. And I made it very clear to him, man, that, I know the situation I'm walking into. I want to be nothing but a resource for him. I want to be a supporter. I want to be somebody that just does what he can for the team in any capacity, because I understand what type of leader he is and how much respect he has from the coaches and the management and his teammates. And we're going to follow his lead, man, because he's earned that, and I look forward to being a part of that.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get some more Jake Maier audio in the next hour. I don't know him from a hole in the ground. I like the guy. I'd like if I correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows him, he seems very strategic, cerebral, if that's the right word. I can't not the emotional, like a Johnny Manziel.
He's definitely saying the right things coming into the situation. You don't want the guy who is definitely pegged to be your backup going, no, I'm coming into camp to challenge.
Yeah.
Because that's just going to throw the entire QB room out the window right there. So
know your role.
Exactly.
The T-shirts for the Rider store. Know your role. And that would have been kind of the setup. He's aware. He will play. Like, I think we all are in agreement that not many quarterbacks are going through the full year anymore. So we will see Jake Maier on the field at some point. I like it. Like I said, we got more audio from that Meet Jake Maier Day today, a little bit later in hour 2. We're almost up against the clock here, and news. It is the Sports Cage. If you're watching the stream on YouTube, thank you very much. Hammer that subscribe and like button. And we are on the home of sports in Saskatchewan, 620 CKRM. Welcome back. Hour 2 on this Friday of the Sports Cage. If you're not sitting at home watching the NHL this evening and college football, the second semifinal, Ohio State, Texas, which we'll talk to Farhan Lalji about in hour 3. And you want to get out, maybe put some miles on the rig, go and watch hockey. Pats are in Moose Jaw tonight, 7 p.m. puck drop. We got it right here on 620 CKRM. Bring your transistor radio into the facility and listen to it. 6:30, Dante's got the pregame show. Lethbridge is in Swift Current. In hour 1, we talked to Ryan Switzer. That's an interesting game for Swift to find out kind of where do they rank right now against one of the teams that loaded up after the Western Hockey League trade deadline. Saskatoon and Calgary, there's a measuring stick for Saskatoon, who's kind of going down the rebuild road now, much to the chagrin of some in Saskatoon. PA's in Edmonton, Red Deer's in Medicine Hat, Portland is starting their swing in Brandon. They're here tomorrow night. We're still got 2 tickets, Alan, right? 2 tickets. We got about another 20 minutes if you want to get in and win 2 tickets to watch the Regina Pats Portland Winterhawks tomorrow night at the Brandt Center. 936-6262 306-936-6262. Just say I want to go to the Pats game and let Alan know why he is so deadly at what he does. No AAA midget tonight. The female U18 Worlds, Canada plays Czechia tomorrow. Striker Zablocki and the other two Saski girls trying to get into that gold medal game, probably against the U.S. U.S. is playing Sweden. Junior B Loop, Prairie Junior League, Regina Capitals, Extreme Hockey Capitals are in Assiniboia. 8:15. The ever-popular 8:15 puck drop in that one. All-Star game tomorrow in that league. It's actually a really good watch. If you're in the Carrot River area, maybe you're up there doing some snowmobiling or ice fishing, 4 p.m. in Carrot River tomorrow is the Prairie Junior Hockey League All-Star game. Some senior love out there. Red vs. Moosomin. That's your hometown.
My old stomping grounds.
Moosomin is the favorite on Cool Bet right now. 8 p.m. there.
Of course they are. It's Red River Rockets.
Two of the best teams in the Big Six, and Moosomin's always a little bit better at home. Some of the boys, I think, on Moosomin, the word is don't like to travel. Maybe Mama Bear.
There's a few that might be like that. Yeah.
Maybe Mama Bear's like, no. We just got off holidays. You're with your buddies. You're sticking around. But yeah, Moosomin's at home tonight. Foam Lake home to Wadena. In the Long Laker, Leroy Drake, over under there is 9.5. That's the one that I was thinking I was sprinkling in. How about the undefeated Rocanville Tigers? If you're out in Rocanville way, you got Swan Valley coming in tonight. And Nautica, we didn't forget about you. Hodgeville, Rollo, Assiniboia, Avonlea, Lafleche, Radville, Bethune, Balcarres in the Copel Valley Highway Hockey League, the longest name in any senior hockey league. Bethune, Balcarres, Lumsden, and Milestone, Balgoni, Welcome Southey. There's a rundown. Senior Hockey Report with Josh Miller coming up at about 5:30. Western Pizza. Why wouldn't a guy or girl order Western Pizza this evening? Do you eat a lot of Western Pizza? You can be honest right now. Actually, don't. Say you do.
Of course I do.
Do you have a favorite?
Big sponsor of the Thunder. The All Dressed.
Yeah.
You get the All Dressed wheel. It's funny. Alan Polga, a buddy of mine from the Carillon, put a thing for the Sask Wanderer about the Regina style pizza the other day, and all I wanted was an all dress wheel after I watched that thing.
I know I talk about the Deuce all the time. It's the number 2 is good. The number 2 when you're drinking beer, it's something with the taste buds and the salts reacting with the lager or the beer and the barley. I don't know what it is. Colson, look it up. No, but the number 2 is, but I am an all dressed guy, and I know there's people that aren't going to like this. I almost would like extra pineapple.
I'm a big pineapple guy.
Yeah.
Keep the olives off, put more pineapple on.
Good. Western Pizza guest hotline. Luc Mullinder standing by. The look on his face, he is going... What did I say wrong there, Luke? Sorry, buddy.
I'm guessing it's the pineapple part.
Let me tell you something, man. As somebody of Polynesian descent, someone from New Zealand, pineapple does not belong on pizza, okay? It just does not. I know there's always a big argument about this. Pineapple is a fruit, and it does not belong on pizza unless it's a dessert pizza with strawberries and stuff like that. You gotta move away from that, Barney. You gotta move away from that.
But I find that it's a lot like pickles to an extent, where people will put pickles on things that are weird. You know what? Now, you know what the big thing is, Luke? Let's be honest. Sausages, people are putting all sorts of things. I don't know why dill pickle sausage is such a big thing right now.
You know why? It's because the charcuterie boards. Everybody thinks they're a charcuterie board expert, and that's their go-to: sausage, pickles, and cheese. They put them on toothpicks, and they think they're cultured. Just like people who put pineapple on pizza think they're cultured. I got news for you. You're not cultured.
I just do it because I like the taste. I'm not cultured in anything. The charcuterie board thing. I'm in Kenora, Saskatchewan next Friday for Hockey Day in Saskatchewan. And the charcuterie board will be, you know what we're called there? Midnight lunch. You got some cheese, you got some sausage, and maybe some crackers.
But like the folks who are dressing up, I'll tell you what, man. So we had a gathering at the house over the holidays, and my assignment was to purchase a charcuterie board. There was no way that I should have dedicated as much time and resources to finding a charcuterie board. And the attitude I got, I went there when I needed it. So like the day of the gathering, okay? And the attitude of these places that did this, oh, it's gonna take so long. And I'm like, oh, really? It's meat, cheese, pickles, and maybe some chili and crackers. And they're acting like this takes like a month to create. Like they're artists. Like I'm asking Van Gogh to paint the top of my house. I'm not. I wanted meat, cheese on a board. It was so stupid.
And then you got, the thing is, I don't know how your wife is, but Mrs. S, I pulled out the charcuterie board thinking that it's just a cutting board. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, cutting this stuff because you don't like me cutting on the counter? She's like, that's a charcuterie board. And I'm like, oh, yeah. It looks like a board to me. It looks like a paddle, actually.
Yeah, and they want to overcrowd everything. They want to put everything close together. It's so stupid. I'll tell you the best charcuterie board I've ever seen. You want to know what the best charcuterie board I've ever seen is? Is this kid went and he bought like 20 cheeseburgers and a bunch of fries and threw it on a plate. That was the best charcuterie board I've ever seen.
That's my wife's, that was my wife when we went to that potluck and we talked deviled eggs. And I sent you that picture. Hey, kudos to her. That's her. It's either corn dogs or McDonald's cheeseburger charcuterie board. The two go to, and then you sprinkle the fries on it. It looks good. We heard he had media availability today. Jake Mayer, newest Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback. He's in the fold. 1 year. Greg and I were talking here. Greg from Piffles podcast is here, and a lot of people are saying, why only the 1 year? On your side of things, Luke, why do you think they went 1 year?
Well, first of all, I thought it was a great signing. He was clearly probably the best backup available when you know your team has a starting quarterback. In our case, Trevor Harris. But I think that it's a great signing, and the 1 year is a perfect contract. And here's why: you've got Trevor Harris is on a 2-year deal. You've got Jake Mayer. It gives both sides a chance to really get to know each other again. I know everybody's making a big deal about him understanding and knowing Mueller, our offensive coordinator and stuff. But I mean, if they really want to assess whether Jake Mayer is a guy that can lead this team once Trevor Harris is no longer part of the organization, it's essentially a long date, right? You get to date each other. You get to figure out, that he's going to play. Right? Eventually in some point in 2025, Jake Mayer is going to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders as our quarterback, right? So, yeah, date each other. And if at the end of the year, J.O. and everybody is like, you know what? I don't think that he's the guy to lead us to the next sort of phase of our organization. Then you get to part ways. There's nothing messy. People get to go their separate ways. There's no bonuses that we're cutting there, right? So I think it's a really good situation for all parties. I think that the 1 year contract, again, it's indicative of where we are with a lot of the other position groups, right? I think that because he's a quarterback, everybody's like, oh, well, this is naturally a 2 to 3 year thing. I think that the 1 year is perfect. You get to know a guy, you get to figure out if he's really comfortable in that system. He gets a chance to reset. He gets a chance to plant his feet in an unfamiliar place where the place that he was probably a little bit stressful and he's got a ton of anxiety. Yeah, get to know each other, man. Go on a couple dates, He's going to play. I think it's a good term.
Have a charcuterie board together.
Assess whether he's a charcuterie board guy or a steak and eggs guy.
Is he charcuterie board worthy? That's the thing. Is he charcuterie board worthy?
What if he shows up with a can of pineapples?
Oh, well, then you're like, oh, scout team for this guy,
Someone better warn him. You better not tell Luke he likes a Hawaiian pizza, or Luke might trash him on the broadcast the entire time. But
I think that Hawaiian pizza is terrible. I think it's a terrible idea. It's terrible. It's an insult to the Hawaiian people.
Certainly it is. It's a Canadian invention. So, but going into the season, obviously, Trevor Reed was signed down in the States, so there's a big piece missing off as a left tackle. This team has been looking for left tackle forever.
Yeah.
Where should we be worried, or because they went through 13 offensive linemen last year?
Yeah, and I
who's the next guy up?
Yeah, and I think that that's the exact reason, actually, why I would not be worried if I was the fan base here. The one thing that that was done really, really well last year was Jeremy O'Day's ability to find guys to plug in to the offensive line, and Edwin Harrison's ability to get those guys ready to play a game. That's the position coach for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I think that I already saw we signed one guy. He's about 5 years into his professional career. The name escapes me right now, but we've got a guy that's in camp. I think that I would have the utmost confidence in Jeremy O'Day at the moment, seeing as how he performed in a really, really tough situation. Just remember, guys, offensive lines especially, like they can normally get through one catastrophic injury, maybe two, but they had a number of catastrophic injuries to their starters and to their backup situations. You know, you have 13 different line combinations. I mean, especially towards the end of the year. The end of the year is finally when they got some type of consistency, and we were only like, oh yeah, this is the third time they've played together as an offensive line. This is awesome. Like, imagine that. At the end of the year, everybody else is like, yeah, these guys have played 18 games together, and we're here celebrating 3, right? So I think that I'd be tremendously positive about O'Day's ability to find a bunch of guys to compete for that tackle spot. I think that you have a couple guys in camp or on the team already. You know, Jacob Brammer's moved around. I know they brought that young man from the SEC last year. I think he played for Mississippi State. He's the guy that he started out playing right tackle for us. They bumped him inside. Depends on how he comes. So again, I would have confidence that Jeremy O'Day is going to have a plan there. But more importantly, like you said, right? It's this team has got to figure out, and this is no fault of their own, but you've got to get the guy. There are certain spots where you want to be solidified with the guy. For instance, Winnipeg, right? Their guy has been Stanley Bryant for the last, decade, and he's been one of the best, right? That's what's missing, I think, on this offensive line is we haven't had a solidified left tackle since probably Xavier Fulton, right? And he was a stud. Right. But that is how long it's been for us to go and get a consistent guy at that left tackle spot. And again, you want continuity across that offensive line.
Switching to the other side, what are they going to do on the defensive side? Mike is a free agent. He's still doing the charity thing, so you got to think there's a contract in a drawer somewhere for him. Lanier's a free agent. Like, let's face it, the pass rush wasn't what we thought it was going to be last year.
No, I think that I have a feeling that if there's anybody who's probably not going to be back, that's a familiar face. I don't think, unless it was a very sort of minimal deal, I don't see Anthony Lanier being back in green and white just because of the way sort of even when he was healthy towards the end of the year, they didn't feature him heavily in that rotation, right? So, there's going to be some money freed up there because he was one of the higher paid guys. I think that you're able to get Micah Johnson back. I think that he understands where he is in his career, right? I don't think that he's a defensive tackle that I think he wants respect, right? When you get that, when you're that age and you've played at the level that you've been playing, I think that, you've had that chance to make the big money at that point in his career. Now it's just, hey, respect me, right? And he's making some money in the offseason for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, probably for the foundation and just the various things that he can do as a recognizable face in the province. So you get sort of that off-season money that actually gives you confidence for that next phase of year. I've been in that situation where I've been a representative and ambassador for the team with an organization, and it gave me confidence that, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel for my football career. And I think that Micah Johnson's at that point where he can probably see that too. Hey, I'm setting things up for the next step of my life, and in Saskatchewan, there's a lot more opportunities than there would be, say, either at home or, back in Calgary where I played the most amount of years outside of here.
Maybe Mike is just going to come back and play offensive line. Have we ever thought about that?
Well, he can. I mean, he was out there. And don't forget, one of the other guys, guys that we don't want to forget about, and he was having a fantastic year before he got hurt, is Charbel DeBeer. I think that was a really key signing. Now, this team over the last year has not had or designated ratio-wise that nose tackle as a Canadian position. So Charbel's had to really work for the reps that he's gotten. And last year, he was on a really good kick until he got hurt, right? So getting him back is big. He's also a guy that spends his time here in the offseason. So let's not forget about that. There's going to be depth guys, but I think that you look at the edges. All right, we had some really good performances out of some guys on the edge. Brian Cox Jr., for instance, he's a guy that I would want to bring back. We didn't see a whole ton of a couple of the younger guys that we wanted to see. So again, camp's going to be really interesting for that aspect. But I think that Jo probably is focused, and he said it right before the offseason started. They're going to focus on bringing those core guys back, and Micah Johnson's a core guy.
When they announced Charbel, first thing I thought about was, well, Luke loves that guy. Luke really likes that guy. That's one of Luke's guys.
I'm a huge fan of Charbel, and it's because he's had to fight for everything that he was given. And again, you don't have that Canadian ratio spot that's given to you as a nose tackle, so you've got to battle in the rotation. And I think that when he was in the game getting reps, he was productive. And it was one of the losses that I think the Riders really felt, because he was a guy that was productive on the inside.
Yeah. Back to the Trevor Reed thing, signing with the Vikes, which is awesome. And we released him. He gets to go down on that. And you've seen it. And we do see guys go down and they sign, but that they come back. Like, where do you think that we see him back? Like, how tough is it going to be? I don't know enough. It's probably more of an Arash question, being a Vikings guy. But, what should Rider fans be thinking about there, Luke?
Trevor Reed was next to Logan Ferland, was probably the best offensive lineman for the Saskatchewan Roughriders this year. He was dependable because he was always there. He played hurt. And that kid is as athletic as they come. If there's one guy out of all the Canadian Football League signees that you've seen that have signed with NFL teams thus far, Trevor Reed's the guy I think it sticks. I think he's got a chance to definitely make a practice roster. But I think that he's definitely got a chance to work himself into the rotation too. That guy really developed. From day one, it's with the young guys, you see it right away, right? You see the athleticism with the young guys, and then at some point you're like, okay, can this guy turn it on in terms of being a pro? And again, I think that they should be so happy with his contributions, and I think it's a real success story. Again, credit to Edwin Harrison for getting that guy ready and turning him into a pro. And again, I do think that Trevor Reed has the ability to stick down there in the NFL. And keep in mind, the Saskatchewan Roughriders drafted Hergel, who stuck with the New Orleans Saints this year. He was their draft pick. Kyle Hergel, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's a guy, when he was down there, he stuck with New Orleans, but they've got a ton of O-linemen down there, right? And they're looking at potentially a new coaching staff. So do you see your 2024 draft pick offensive lineman come in there and help out the depth of that group?
Good point.
Definitely an option. They also Daniel Johnson, I believe, was drafted last year as well. Like,
and they got great. Sorry, they got great. One of the biggest surprises, guys. You got to give him a lot of credit. Zach Fry. Zach Fry stepped in and took advantage of. And this is a guy that we were like, I don't know, right? Like, we've seen him in action, and I don't know. He came in and he did a great job. He was dependable, just like the rest of those guys who had to play major reps when it probably wasn't planned at the beginning. So that's another guy you can potentially see taking that next step.
Well, Zer, Fry, all the young guys last year stepped up. Like, J.O.'s been smart by grabbing as many Canadian offensive linemen he could shove in that cupboard, because it paid off in spades last year. Talking about Edwin Harrison, Piffles has been on my podcast. We have been trying to promote a Coach of the Year award. Was there a better position coach than Edwin Harrison this year?
No, he was probably he's definitely the best coach next to Coach Mace in terms of getting the team prepared. I think that he's a guy that, he was a player, and he was a very good player. It is very hard to go from being a player that recently and making the transition to offensive line coach. Like, so, and I always use this example, but it's a great example. Anthony Calvillo, for instance, right, goes from just an absolute legend on the field and really struggles as a coach, right, to get productivity out of the guys that he's coaching, but also, you know, finding his fit on a team in which he was essentially a god in the entire province with the Montreal Alouettes, right? So it's not easy. And I think Edwin Harrison was fantastic. And it was a great pickup by Coach Mace. And again, I think that you see some guys leave it, right? Like you see JC Sherrod, who I think also did a really good job, and kudos for him for making the next step up. But Edwin Harrison absolutely is probably the best assistant coach. And also you have to give credit to our special teams coordinator as well. He did a great job. I mean, the coverage units this year weren't an issue. I mean, yeah, you'd want more production out of your return teams, but I also think that he did a good job. But Harrison he was money.
We haven't talked to you a lot since all the other moves around the league, you know, the VA signing, the Fajardo signing, the coaching staffs that are in places in certain areas. You know, which one for you, you know, where do you kind of rank things as far as the off season goes on what other teams have done?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. I think that obviously the probably the most important signing was Edmonton, getting Ed Hervey over there, a guy who guided them to their last Grey Cup. I think the best signing overall was Hamilton's GM signing. He's sorry, I've had a long day at work, guys. I can't recall his name right now, but the new GM in Hamilton. And more importantly, I think that today the Winnipeg Blue Bombers announced an absolute coup. Like, they got Brock Sunderland in scouting and Eric Deslauriers from Montreal. I thought Juice Deslauriers was going to stay in Montreal as a scout forever. So they made a great job, because that was one of the things. Ted Gavea, sorry, yeah. So when Ted Gavea went to Hamilton as the GM, I was on this show like, oh man, guys, that's a massive loss, because Gavea and Danny Mack were essentially the guys that got Kyle Walters the talent. And then Walters did his administration thing really well with, right? So you notice that void there. But for them to go and get a former GM in Sunderland and a guy that's going to recruit Canada really well in Deslauriers, that was probably about the best filler you could get for that massive gap Gavea left. So I think that today too, Rick Campbell going back to Ottawa, like, that coaching staff, guys, was already a monster coaching staff with Bobby Dice there leading the helm. And for them to go and get Campbell, who's still one of, like, listen, he fumbled the bag with BC last year, especially with that quarterback situation. So you give it that. But he's still one of the best coaches out there in the Canadian Football League. So now that you got him over there as a special teams coordinator, their coaching staff just got so much better, right? I think
confusing. I find that one confusing, because it's like, now you got a guy that if ownership doesn't really like kind of the cut of your jib or what you're doing, they can be like, well, we got Ricky over there. To me, that's
the business that they chose, right? That's the business that we chose. There's always there's always somebody behind you. Right, like Bobby Dice isn't sitting there in Ottawa being like, man, I'm the king of the castle for the next 20 years. No, this is a what have you done for me lately business. And there's always going to be somebody, whether you're a player or a coach, that somebody has their eye on as the potential future guy. So I think that if anything, Rick Campbell goes in there and actually helps Bobby Dice administratively, right? Like, and logistically during game day situations. So again, their staff got, as far as the players go, that's a tough situation in Edmonton. I think Cody Fajardo essentially is going to have to be a guy that plays some major reps there. I still don't see it in Trey Ford, and I really get it. And I want a Canadian quarterback to succeed in this league. I don't understand, with what we've seen out of Trey Ford, why Edmonton would go and commit that. So I think that it was actually a really smart move to go and get Cody, because I think that Ed Hervey knows he's going to have to, at some point, either through injury or just potentially through a drop in play, there's going to have to be another quarterback there. And obviously you couldn't do it with McLeod Bethel Thompson. Just, that was a crazy dynamic.
What has been more confusing for you over the last month? How long it takes someone to put together a charcuterie board, or that Chris Jones ends up with Bill Belichick at UNC?
I don't think the Chris Jones to UNC thing is confusing at all. I think that Bill Belichick's a guy who's going to go out and try to find talent on both sides, on the player side and for his coaching staff. So Chris Jones, a guy who's clearly got an eye for talent, a guy who's been around a couple leagues. I think it was a good move. I think that if anything, the Bill Belichick one was actually, I don't know, probably as complicated as a charcuterie board in that I would just be worried the whole time. It would be such a tumultuous offseason for me, just especially as UNC boosters and the GM there. Like, man, you'd want to keep Belichick there for as long as possible, but there's going to be some jobs, and his name's already being floated for jobs. Like, literally just signed on in UNC, and you got him as the #1 contender for jobs like the Raiders, right? So I don't know, man. That is a complicated situation. But again, anytime you got Bill Belichick, he's gonna do great, man. I think UNC is going to be a great team under him.
See, I don't. I think he's going to flop. That's just as a Patriots fan in me. I think he's going to flop.
Well, so
I'm a Patriots fan too. But
so let me ask you something. As a Patriots fan, now that you've seen what the organization looks like without Belichick, how do you come to that assessment, seeing as the nosedive they took under Mayo this year?
Belichick's last year was an absolute dumpster fire.
I was going to say
as soon as Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady bolted out of Foxborough, I just don't think I think the game has passed him by. And I'm just some pigeon doing a radio show in Regina, so it doesn't mean much. But I think he is going to flop there. I don't know why.
The NFL game and the college game are two different animals. Then again, with that new transfer window and all the NIL money, it is basically let's face it, NCAA is now pro sports.
Exactly. You just said it. You're right. You're absolutely right.
1-year deals.
The NCAA is exactly like pro sports, and they've got a GM over there. Keep in mind, UNC, as soon as they hired Belichick, they also announced that they've hired a GM.
I know.
They understand that the college sports has turned into professionalization of a student athlete. So who better than a guy that's dealt with pros? You think Bill Belichick is going to be like, the Tar Heels, right? Darian Durant's favorite squad. They win 7 games next year, let's say, right? And they compete for the ACC championship. What do you think the response when some freshman comes in and says, "Bill, I'm hitting the transfer portal unless you give me $250,000 next year"? What do you think that's going to be? The response is going to be, "Yeah, well, hit the bricks." That's exactly what the response is going to be. That program right there is going to be team first. And I think that's what college sports needs to find again. They need to find a way to get back to the team first mentality, despite all the money that's out there.
I just want to know how long it's going to take Chris Jones to put a moderately successful under Darian Durant's name on the UNC board.
Man, that's going to live in infamy, man. It's going to live in infamy. But you know what? Hey, every time Chris Jones walks around that building, there's going to be some type of mural with the Tar Heels with Darian Durant up there. That's how it goes with legends at schools, man. And Darian Durant's a legend in UNC.
Okay, before we let you go, I gotta get your take on what's happened so far. The college football playoff. We got Ohio State, Texas tonight. Classic last night. Penn State, Notre Dame. Arizona State almost pulls out the upset that no one saw coming. What's been your take on the whole college football playoff?
I've loved it. There's a lot more parity now that everybody's getting paid, right? There's going to have to be an emphasis on finding the right coaches. Again, the generation of the athlete mentality is a lot different. So you're going to have to find coaches that know how to coach football, but also deal with the mentality. That's why I think Brian Kelly's not having any success at LSU. He's a good coach. Just, man, he doesn't understand the generation of athlete. Anyways, like what we've seen, it's been fantastic football. I think that what you have to remember, guys, is that regardless if they go top 4, if they go top 10, top 12, if they extend the playoff to 20 teams, we're always going to be arguing about those final 2 or 3 teams, right? It doesn't matter. It just so happens that Alabama was one of the teams we were arguing with again. So I think I've loved it, man. I think that, you got to look at it. At the end of the year, Oregon and who else was number 2? Oregon and they lost as well.
Tennessee?
Yeah, the final 2 this year, Oregon and
Boise?
whoever else I can't remember. Pardon?
Boise was 3.
Boise was 3.
The top two teams in the NCAA
Georgia.
are not playing in the championship this year.
Georgia.
There you go. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, guys. Well, what a football analyst. Huh? I've come out here and forgotten more names than remembered. Anyways.
Well, I got you rattled up to start with pineapple. So, hey.
Oregon and Georgia would have competed for the national championship in the former mode.
Yeah.
Right? Number one. And they're not even in the championship. They had to play. Yeah. And, you see Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship now, too. So
that's a good point. Like I didn't never like the original. Like that guy's in and that guy's in. It's like, what?
Well, remember what we would be doing as soon as you lost one game.
Yeah.
They're out.
Done.
You're done. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Last question. The slate of games this weekend in the NFL. Do you see any upsets in any of those?
Yeah, I think if there's a team that's going to get beat, I think it's going to be the Bills.
Ooh, Denver. Yeah. Bo Nix. Yeah. I like Bo Nix.
Listen, I'll tell you what, man. Sean Payton's been there before. They know exactly who they are as an offense, and that defense is sneaky good. And I just think that Sean Payton, again, he's going to go in there and he's going to be like, look, guys, like just keep if Josh Allen beats us, guys, make it be from the pocket, right? Like make it literally be from the pocket. If he throws for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, fine, we'll take the loss. But if this guy runs for 148 and 2 touchdowns with his legs, that's what we can't lose to. So I think if there's an upset special in there, I think it's Buffalo.
Okay. Let's see how that plays out. And let's bookend it. Talking charcuterie boards. Colson's got the picture. There's Mrs. S's.
Look at that.
McDonald's cheeseburger and French fries charcuterie board. That's a work of art.
That's the one you sent me, man. And I'll tell you what, man, I think I was eating dinner and I got up from my table and left. I was so disappointed in what I was eating at the current time because of that picture, man. That's a thing of beauty right there, man. You even got the ketchup packs just in case someone wants to get crazy, you know?
I know. You're a beauty, Luke. Thanks so much for doing this on a Friday. Have a good weekend and have fun watching football.
Have a great show, boys. Oh, man, this has been the best 5 days where we were going to, literally from Thursday all the way through Monday, man. It's great.
I know. All right. See ya. Our color man on the broadcast for our Saskatchewan Rough Rider broadcasts, Luc Mullinder, joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Let's take a quick break. It is the all-new Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the home of the Rider 620 CKRM. Before we get into our clutch performer, just some news. We got Farhan Lalji coming up in hour 3 to start it. He's reporting out on the Twitter or X machine that Bo Levi Mitchell has reworked his contract with the Tiger Cats. We're looking at $323,800 in hard money, including $153,000 as a signing bonus, and up to $51K in playtime incentives. It's a good deal for him. Good deal for the club.
It makes sense. They weren't going to move on from him, so
not after how he started slinging it last year. I thought he was going to be out of there.
They wanted him out of there.
Yeah.
That was the weird thing is, did he throw some really bad interceptions? Yes, but he was still the best thing they had. And so
good news there. We'll talk to Farhan about that in hour 3. Clutch performer time. For Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Call 781-1077. I have one. Colson, you're going to take it. My clutch performer is everyone I know tonight in Ituna that's working to get things ready for the official grand opening tomorrow of the new rink in Ituna. The concession, you can smell it from here. It's going to be beauty. The pierogies, the burgers, everything. So everyone in the community of Ituna and around there, have a great day tomorrow. Excited for you in the new barn. Colson, your clutch performer for next service.
So I saw this a couple days ago, so it's a bit old now.
Okay.
But there is a Facebook ad for a beer league needing a goalie. And who should show up but Olympic gold medalist Roberto Luongo in the championship game for this beer league team.
Oh, if you're watching the stream, you're watching the video.
Yeah, of their locker room, of him walking into the locker room. And 4-2 win for the boys over the 5-time defending championships.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is awesome. Where was that? Down south? Where does he live? Florida? No.
He was with Florida last, so probably down there.
Yeah,
he's still down there. Yeah.
Florida. That's a good one. Awesome stuff. If you ever have a clutch performer, let us know. 936-6262. It's brought to you by Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fenton dealer. Okay, we talked about Mayer. Can we go back to some Mayer audio right away here as he talked to the media today? I think I can't foresee Shea Patterson back with the club this year.
No, they're going to run with Harris, Mayer, and Cone. I know Harris. It was funny last year when they Rob Vanstone wrote a piece about Cone, and Harris was talking about him like he was like the number 2 right behind. They completely skipped over Patterson. So
they are high on Cone. Yeah. So I just and Mayer, we'd heard from him earlier. He talks about in this clip here about his last few months, last little bit with the Calgary Stampeders, how they were struggling, the signing of VA, and just everything that went down in Cowtown.
Yeah, I mean it's been difficult. I mean I'm very competitive, and I think it's less about you don't want to be a woe is me guy, or you don't want to constantly think about yourself and have those selfish thoughts of oh well, things aren't going well for me. But for me it was like I'm just such a competitive guy by nature that the struggle was just more so as a group not getting the job done together over the last couple of years in Calgary, and we've been close, but obviously that's not good enough in pro sports. There's a level of production and a standard of winning when you get to this point where that stuff matters, and it's probably the most important thing. So for me, I think that's where the frustration would be present at times. But I will say this, guys, like, what has happened to me over the last couple seasons or beyond that has been reflected on by me personally already. It's been something that my family and I sat down and reflected about and really turned the page on. So I really believe that all my focus and all my energy and all the emotions that I may have had in the past need to stay in the past, and now it needs to be a situation where I walk in with a clear mind and a really competitive spirit and just keep riding a confidence that I know that I'm capable of, and I think when you surround yourself with some of the people and coaches that are here in Saskatchewan already, I think that's something that's very, very easy to do because you're around like-minded people. So I'm very excited for that.
Way more professional than I would ever be, but I from gathering what he was talking in that, it's like driving by McMahon Stadium on your way out of town, honking, window down with the middle finger up, saying, see ya.
I'm assuming this goes to prove that pro athletes are us. Like they go through the same mental struggles that we do. I'm certain most people have been in a situation where they're on their job and a new person comes in, or you can kind of feel like maybe it's time to move on. Things aren't going the way you want to. It's no different in pro sports. It's just a little more higher profile, a little more public.
And then, or the phony people. Yep. It's like, there's nothing worse than the phony people in the workplace. It's like, does anyone else buying this? What are you? You're what? Okay. The other thing is Jake talks about knowing, and again, it's like workplace thing. If you're with company A and company B wants you, kind of makes you excited, and that's what happened. And the Riders traded for him.
There's nothing like it, man. Especially in pro sports, there's nothing like the feeling of being wanted and appreciated, and ultimately being respected. You have to earn everything in this league. Don't get me wrong. But when an organization like the Riders grants you the opportunity to earn the things that may come your way, that's everything. There's a lot of guys that play college sports, professional sports, even youth sports, that are maybe in situations where, they're not valued maybe as much as the next guy. So I don't take that for granted at all. And it's a beautiful feeling to know that, hey, there's an organization, there's a management, there's a coaching staff that really values what you bring to the table, and now it's your job to prove them right.
Hey, saying all the right things. saying all the right things out there in Riderville. I'm sure you guys are all liking what you're hearing there.
At one point, I just want someone to be honest and just blast the team they left.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. It is the all-new Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders 620 CKRM. If you are looking for a place to maybe go watch the college football semifinal game tonight, or the NFL slate starts tomorrow, playoff action. First game, Chargers, Houston Texans. Go to the Canadian Brew House. It's where the NFL lives. You can find out deals online. And also, if you want to host a team fundraiser, Canadian Brew House is the place to go. You can win $2,500 cash for your team. Tons of options to choose from. They're going to help you raise money. All the details at the CanadianBrewHouse.com. Farhan, like I said, I think he's at the game tonight. Get the lowdown on the college football racket there. We gave away the Pat tickets. Alan, Sheriff, tickets are gone away. Thanks to everyone who jumped in on that. It is the Pats and Moose Jaw tonight in Moose Jaw. Tomorrow, Pat's back here taking on the Portland Winterhawks. You go to many Pats games?
I try to get as many as I can, yeah.
Yeah, rebuild time.
It's been a rebuild for a while now.
It's they're young and full of energy though. That's one thing. They're not going into a lot of games, especially against the good guys, that they know they're going to win, and they're putting up a battle. What's up?
They made 6 trades since Saturday. In those 32, 6 of them were with the Pats. So
6.
Still making moves.
Yeah, they're young and getting younger.
They're playing the young guys. Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's like play the young guys. I think Moose Jaw's in the same boat, because there are some. If you're in the Swift Current area, maybe you're listening right now. You're in Morris or Herbert or Leader or Cabry or Abbey. Love Abbey. What a tavern. Shaunavon, anywhere. Drive into Swift tonight and watch the Lethbridge Hurricanes play the Swift Current Broncos. 7 p.m. puck drop. We had Ryan Switzer on earlier on the show. That's a good game to watch. Get to watch where Swift stacks up against one of the best teams now. Saskatoon, tough one in Calgary tonight in the Western Hockey League. PA's in Edmonton. Red Deer is in Medicine Hat. Portland starts their swing in Brandon. Of course, you can always get your Western Hockey League report here on the Sports Cage for Extreme Hockey, where the Yeti sale continues and the goaltender sale continues. So if you got a goaltender in your family, or you're thinking about switching things up and going to goaltender, go get some gear at Extreme Hockey. Break time, up against news, and then when we come back, we got Farhan Lalji, and we have the Senior Hockey Report. It is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back. One more hour of the program. We're waiting on Farhan Lalji to join us, who's he's the kind of guy that first threw out the Jake Mayer signing with the Riders. So we'll talk to him, find out some other CFL news. Big college football game that he's taken in tonight, and I think he's going to an NFL game as well. Locally tonight in Moose Jaw, it is the Regina Pats Moose Jaw Warriors. 7 p.m. puck drop. Game is here on 620 CKRM with the pregame show at 6:30. Lethbridge is in Swift Current. Saskatoon's in Calgary. Prince Albert in Edmonton. Red Deer's in Medicine Hat. Portland starts their trip in Brandon. SJHL Melville makes the trek into Estevan. Melfort welcomes the Larange Ice Wolves. You heard it on the Southie Mainline Chrysler SJHL report, worth the drive every time, guaranteed. The two big ones in the SJ that Benny and I were talking about tomorrow, Yorkton is in Melfort, and Flin Flon at Humboldt Sunday afternoon. Prairie Junior Hockey League tonight, the Capitals in Assiniboia, 8:15 puck drop. All-Star game tomorrow, 4 p.m. in the Junior B Loop in Carrot River, Saskatchewan. Little senior love tonight in the Big Six. Red Ver's at Moosomin, 8 p.m. Two of the best teams going at it there. Swan Valley in the Sask East taking on the undefeated Rocanville Tigers. In the Nauticue, Hodgeville Rollo, Assiniboia at Avonlea, and some Highway Hockey League. Bethune, Balcarres, Lumsden at Milestone. Balgony plays host to Southie. There's your rundown. Senior Hockey Report with Josh Miller coming up at about 5:30. If you want to sprinkle, go to coolbet.co. You've had this cough.
Yep.
All day, and we were trying to you've had tea. Mm-hmm. You've gone through almost a whole pack of Halls.
Almost, yep.
Not Fisherman's Friend guy?
No, not really. Not a big one.
It's that's the worst though, and sometimes I do feel like it's dry in here, and it's like you get that dry cough. It's hard to get rid of. You're going to, people are just tuning in now, you're going to Warman
on tomorrow, heading up.
Cheer competition.
Yep.
Those things, I've never been to one, but they're pretty wild, aren't they?
They are a lot.
Like how many kids how many girls and guys are we thinking?
It depends on the competition. Warman has 2. They have this winter knockout, which is their smaller one, but the Warman Cheer Classic, I want to say they had 1,000 athletes last year. It's over 3 days, and it is bonkers.
Do you travel a lot? Like, are you with the cheer where all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're going to Florida?
Daughter's too young for that so far, but last year we went to Niagara for nationals. And that was a shot to the wallet, may I add.
Did lots of fundraising. Sell jubes or
chips. We sold everything.
Bottle drives.
Well, actually, I just saw we're now hosting a cornhole tournament to raise money for this team. So
hey, the backyard. That's a good. The backyard is the cornhole kind of spot in Regina, and I would say 20% of the people listening right now have heard about it. It's just off Albert Street. You can look it up. It's called the Backyard, and when you think cornhole, like the set up in the backyard or at a tailgate. That's what it is, but it's like it's got a nice bar, and then everything, there's an app you download when you're playing, and then everything's like electronic score.
Oh, nice.
You haven't been in there?
I haven't been there yet, no.
Oh, it's intense. The only thing that I suggest when people are doing these fundraisers and all that, because I think we're doing one for a hockey team or whatever, is go with the shorter option, because it becomes a long night. Like you can be there till like 1:32 a.m. chucking beanbags, and unless you're one of those like pros, I don't know if Caesar's out there listening right now. He's a pro. Chad Bobrick, Bonnie Day, some young kids. There's such a bloody strategy to playing this thing, and I'm played at Country Thunder with Chad, and it's like, yeah, we'll play, I don't know what the names are, Mark and Steve over there, and I'm like, okay, well, you're Mark's partner. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Throw the bag, and then they are like, there's a strategy, and I'm like, what is going on here? And they're good, so it works.
That's a different Country Thunder than I grew up going to, that's for sure. It was like throwing darts at each other's beer cans between our legs.
Yeah, we kind of kept it on, but I was blown away by how good these people are that are the professional cornholers, and the backyard is a legit checkup, and it's awesome if you want to do a fundraiser. I talked about fundraising with the Canadian Brew House. You can win $25 Hyundai. Don't forget, it's a place to watch your NFL football starting tomorrow, college football tonight's daily specials. Always, I can't remember what the Friday special is. Should look it up online. It's a gooder. Wing specials on Wednesday. Everything lives at the Canadian Brew House sports-wise. You can find out more at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. The line tonight, I didn't mention any NHL yet tonight. Canadian teams that are in action. We got Vancouver. They take on Carolina. Carolina beat up on the Oilers last night, I think.
Penguins did. Penguins beat up on the Oilers.
Did. Yeah. Who did Carolina beat yesterday? And it kind of caught me off. Oilers lose.
My Penguins were up 4-1 very fast, and I was really happy about that, yes.
You're a Penguins guy?
I'm a Penguins guy. My 90s was fun being a Patriots Pats fan. And...
Yeah. Carolina doubled up Toronto last night, 6-3. So they're back at it today. Vancouver's in town. Vancouver's lost like 75 overtime games this year. It's tough for them. They're plus 148 underdog. Montreal takes on the surprising Washington Capitals. Winnipeg Jets, maybe some of you are driving to that game tonight. It's basically a pick-em. We got the Los Angeles Kings in Winnipeg to take on the Jets. And that's it for Canadian teams in action tonight. Some other ones involving American teams, Chicago at Detroit and San Jose at Utah. I forgot to mention 7:40. Is that what time? I got to check. I should know this. I think it's 7:45 this evening at the Hamilton Arena in Regina. 7:45. Regina Pat Blues, AA Bantam, taking on the Martinsville Marauders. And again, love Martinsville. Love the town. New rink there, supposed to be amazing. Great little community.
Hate their colors.
Their color scheme on their jerseys has always been like, you got to change that. It's the teal, and I know the teal was a big thing like late 80s, early 90s. We got to change it up, Martinsville. But it's at the Hamilton. And then Colin Olfert today shocked me. I wrote it down here somewhere. He mentioned about the size of rinks in Regina. C6, they're all the legit, the 200 by 85. And then I was like, okay, well, so is the Wick, and so is the Ritchie. And he goes, no. The Ritchie, 191 by 85.
I guess it does feel a little shorter, yeah.
So 9 feet shorter.
Yeah.
85 wide. Then all these city rinks, Staples, Hamilton,
all the cookie cutter ones, yeah.
Mahan. I don't know if we'd be talking Kinsman and Optimus because those are in a league
cookie
of
cutters.
Those are in a league of their
Staples, yeah, those ones.
Yeah. 182 by 85.
Yeah, those are small rings.
Isn't that tiny?
Yeah.
18 feet on the long side. If I'm doing my math correctly, yeah, 18. But they're all 85 wide. So yeah, that's a little tidbit for you in Regina. Found out today thanks to Colin Ofert from Westridge Construction. Chime that in at noon. Oh, we got him? All right. Let's go out. Western Pizza guest hotline. Get, like Luke said, go get a pizza with extra pineapple. Luke didn't say that. He hates pineapple
Say
on
Luke
pizza.
sent you.
Yeah, Western Pizza, great night for that. Farhan Lalji from TSN joining us. Okay, I've been teeing it up. Where are you, Farhan?
I am at home. Well, I'm walking my dog, actually. I was in the middle of a bunch of CFL trade calls and chatter, and then I will be in Arizona for the NFL playoff game on Monday. I was supposed to be at the Cotton Bowl tonight. Weather changed that a little bit, and off we go to Arizona Sunday for the Monday game.
Okay, so I thought you were supposed to be at the Cotton Bowl. Okay, so you threw me for a loop. Weather changed it?
Weather changed it, yeah, well, just because of the ice storms down there and what was going on with Arizona, just in terms of being able to, we had to kind of last-minute panic in the last couple of days here and make some changes. But either way, yeah, because we were originally scheduled to be in LA, and now we're going to be heading to Arizona for that game. And yeah, just a lot of scrambling the last couple of days. Usually travel is smoother than that.
Greg and I were talking. We hear your dog in the background. That's cute. How many people would just be scrambling right now to change plans that were planning to go to Los Angeles, yourself obviously included, but we're looking up tickets. Like, you can get into that game for a pretty good deal right now. I'm sure at game time, I think there is the charter out of Regina going down to Phoenix on Mondays or in around there. So it's not a bad thing. Crazy though. Let's start with the NFL before we get into the CFL. I asked Luc Mullinder this when we were going and chatting earlier. If there is one maybe upset this weekend on this slate of games, Farhan, which one would you say would be the underdog prevailing?
I think this one. I think the Rams taking out Minnesota. I had a lot of success with them in a game earlier this season in October. And when you look at the Rams after Puka Nacua came into the lineup, and look, the last game against Seattle doesn't count because they sat so many people, but they were 7-2 with Nacua back in the lineup. And when you look at that offense with both he and Cooper Kupp operating on all cylinders, they've got a good running back now. Their offensive line is settled, and I think their defense has exceeded a lot of expectations. I think that was the team you didn't want to play. You know, coming into the year, everyone had San Francisco as a slam dunk to win the NFC West. Seattle started the season hot, but ultimately, you know, when you look at Coach of the Year candidates, I think Sean McVay should be up there with the job that he's done this season, and I think they very well could knock off Minnesota this week.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Can you see, you know, with the injuries and stuff now? Can you see Pittsburgh? We lost them. On there,
I'm here.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore. The game that I don't know anything about, maybe help me with this one. Washington, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I want to see what Jaden Daniels does in a playoff situation, right? And look, I think what he's done this season, he's going to be a slam dunk winner of the most outstanding rookie this year. I think Brock Bowers has been exceptional, but I just don't know how you get away from what Jaden Daniels has done, how he's completely changed that franchise around. But I like Baker right now. I just think he's playing with such a level of confidence in what he's managed to do the last couple of years, really, in terms of resurrecting his career. I like that roster. I like what they've got defensively. I think they're better. Like, could Washington pull off an upset? I think they could. And I think if it gets down to a late fourth quarter situation, I don't think anything's going to rattle Daniels in that stage or in that moment. But when you look at the other game that you had mentioned, you'd touched on Baltimore-Pittsburgh, I just don't see a path to victory for Pittsburgh with that offense. I think their defense has shown a few hiccups in the last few weeks. Lamar Jackson is playing out of his mind right now. I mean, I still have Josh Allen as my MVP, but when you look at the season that Jackson has put together, it's been really impressive. So I'd be shocked if Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh found a way offensively to generate enough points that they're going to need, because I think even if Pittsburgh plays well, Baltimore's putting up 28 points, and I just don't see Pittsburgh putting up 28 points. So I think Baltimore's going to win that game convincingly. But then on the other side, it's going to be fascinating between Tampa and Washington. But I still like Tampa in that one.
Luke's choice for upset, he liked Denver against Buffalo. Speaking of Josh Allen, I tend to agree with him.
Wow.
I actually agree with him. I think Denver's been playing some really good football, and Buffalo has been playing down to their opponent. Like, look at the issues they had with the Patriots. And as a Patriots fan, I hate to say this, they were bad this year, but they stayed tight with Buffalo.
Yeah, look, I know they did, but I think home field advantage in that one's going to play a big part. I want to see how Bo Nix handles that crowd and that atmosphere and all of it. I don't think the weather's going to bother him. I mean, it's just the same in Denver. But in terms of my dog's trying to pull me away here. In terms of what that home field is like at that stadium in Buffalo, and this is Allen's time. Has he got enough in him to knock off Kansas City when it gets to that point? I don't know, but I absolutely think that they're going to beat that they're going to win this game against Denver. Denver's going to be happy to be there, so they're going to play with no pressure. They're playing with the house's money, but I've got Buffalo all day in that game.
Let's go to CFL and the news that you kind of broke it on Twitter earlier this week that Jake Maier signs finally with the Riders. That's inked. We heard some audio from him today. A lot of people are I guess maybe a little confused on the 1-year deal. Do you think that was the best play for both parties, Farhan?
Yeah, I think it was. And look, at the end of the day, these things are 1-year deals unless there's guarantees at the end of it. And there was never going to be a guarantee on the back end of a 2 or a 3-year deal if you're Jake Maier. For Jake Maier, he's trying to resurrect his career. He wants to be here, play behind Trevor Harris, hopefully in his mind, right, that Harris is getting older and maybe in another year there's an opportunity, and that if Harris gets banged up again, that there's an opportunity here. But this is a show me, rebuild my career type of deal for Jake Maier. And if you're Maier, there's no downside to a 1-year deal here, because even if you sign a 2 and you have a great year, you're going to try to renegotiate it, right? There's no way around that. So I think it just makes sense here.
Also today, Hamilton re-ups Bo Levi Mitchell. Was there even any thought not to restructure that deal?
No, I think Bo wanted to be back. I think Scott Milanovich wanted him to be back. I think from Bo's standpoint, his deal was so incentive-based a year ago, right? There was so much tied to playtime incentives that he just wanted to get those numbers back to a point where there was a little bit more guaranteed, and he was able to accomplish that. He didn't even use an agent for this deal. He just kind of did it on his own. The bottom line in it, in terms of what he made this year versus what he could make next year if you just eliminate the playtime, it wasn't going to be a big cap hit for Hamilton, right? I mean, you have to budget that much anyway, because whatever other quarterback is there is going to have those same types of playtime incentives based into his deal. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's a reasonable number for a starter. Certainly a reasonable number for a guy that threw for 5,000 yards last year.
And sticking with quarterbacks, everyone seems to have their 2 quarterbacks, Harris and Maier. VA and I'm trying to blank.
PJ Walker,
PJ Walker, Ford and Cody.
Yeah.
What's based on how Rourke played this last year? What's BC's plan?
Well, I think Chase Bryce, they've liked what they've seen from him the last couple of years. So it wouldn't shock me if they kick the market on, let's say, a guy like Jeremiah Masoli. But if they have to circle back and make Bryce number 2, I think they're comfortable. And what's interesting to me is just the stylistic fits in all those other quarterback rooms, right? You talk about Trevor Harris, not a guy that uses his legs a lot, right? He's a pocket passer, and you get that with Jake Mayer. Cody Fajardo backing up Trey Ford in Edmonton, 2 guys that can run around a bit and sling it and do it that way. So, if Bryce is that guy, he's not necessarily that player in BC. It would have to look like an entirely different offense if he goes in versus what Nathan Rourke could do, which is why I think there's a bit of intrigue around Masoli, because despite his injuries, I think stylistically he still wants to move around a bit. So I think there's a fit there.
What the heck is going on with the schedule?
Well, I think part of this is the result of not having a commissioner in place, right? Because he's the guy that can go to other teams and can nudge them a little bit and say, "Hey guys, look, let's figure this out." If there's a little bit of a battle between 2 teams for a certain weekend, or getting off a Saturday date or something like that. So I think that's part of it. I think you want to get this thing done before Christmas. It should have been done before Christmas. I do think it'll be done by the end of the year, by the end of next week. I think that's going to happen, and of course, everybody's going to be in Carolina for the league meetings. But I will tell you this: first time you've heard it, you can put this one out there. There will not be a touchdown game. Atlantic, Pacific, anywhere, there's not going to be a touchdown game this year. And one of the reasons for that is that Toronto actually saw a bit of an uptick in their attendance. They're usually that team that gives up a game. They didn't last year when it was BC Ottawa, but you find that happening, when it was an Atlantic game, that it was always the Argos that gave up a home game. But they're seeing an uptick in attendance now, and they don't necessarily want to just hand that game over. So no touchdown game this year, but I do think you'll see it back within the next couple of years somewhere.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Breaking news.
Interesting stuff. Some people were talking, Farhan, about the stadiums that are sharing with soccer teams being maybe one of the hang-ups.
That is part of it. Yeah, I'm sure it is. And there aren't many of those, right? We see it with Hamilton. We see it with Toronto. I don't think that's a huge thing. Toronto actually got better dates than I think they were anticipating on the front end. But, there's teams that don't want to play Saturday, or they don't want to play Thursdays. There used to be a time where everybody said, look, the big markets, don't have them play early week games in the fall. They always want to play Saturdays in the fall, and on summers they want to be able to have getaway games because there's so much more to do. And now every market seems to say that even in Saskatchewan, hey, we got people that want to get away out of the city, and so don't give us Saturday games, give us Friday games, and things like that. There's more teams with kind of excuses as to what their schedule looked like, whereas previously you can kind of slot in things a little bit more clearer. So I think that's hanging things up a little bit, but again, I think they're close. I know they've been through about 6 drafts of it now, and they're almost there.
Are the CTV 2:30 games going to be a thing again this year? I know that changed the schedule mid-season last year.
Couldn't tell you, but I do think the CTV games are going to be there, and I think that when you saw what you did with the Grey Cup, I think it just takes time for fans to get used to watching games there on that channel. So those games will be back, but I don't know that they'll all necessarily be 2:30 games yet.
And then are you waiting for anything else to fall as far as CFL player-wise, anything? Like what's the next thing that you're waiting for?
Curious to see what what Toronto does as far as their defensive coordinator spot goes. In terms of players, the trade that has just dropped right now between Calgary and Toronto. Toronto with Flo Orimolade going back to Calgary, Cam Judge going back to Toronto, I think is an interesting one. You can see what's happening there. Calgary desperately needed pass rushing help. They were able to get it. You look at Toronto, it looks like they're going to have a ratio change at linebacker. You could kind of see that coming when they added Ryder Varga, that they were going to get the next piece there. So with Cam Judge. But, you're looking at a few teams that are going to rebuild some of their rosters, but I'm not sure that there's necessarily a player I'm waiting for a move. I think the Bow one was the big one. We knew that was coming. We just wanted to see the I's dotted and the T's crossed for that one.
Okay, and then last thing quickly, any chance do I sprinkle on Texas tonight?
No chance. No
Really?
chance.
No chance.
Yeah. Well, look, there's always a chance, right? I mean, Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Michigan is not a good football team. Ohio State should have been a 2-touchdown favorite in that game, and they coached their way out of it, right? Their practice or their game plan for that game was a tragedy. We're going to go big on big. Everybody thinks Michigan's physical. We're going to try to out-physical them, as opposed to actually playing with what their strengths are. So could they be dumb again? I guess they could, but when you look at what they've done the last 2 games, as long as Ohio State stays out of their own way, there's just no chance. Texas can't run the ball on anybody. They're going to need to shorten the game if they want to win tonight, and I just don't think stylistically they do that well.
There it is. All right, we'll let you get back to walking your dog. It's antsy out there, and we'll see what happens. Thanks, Farhan.
It is antsy over here. All right, take care.
From TSN, Farhan Lalji joining us. Okay, well, I was excited to maybe sprinkle a little bit on Texas. Again, I don't know enough about those 2 teams, and he's saying stay away.
I agree with him on that one. I've stopped giving you advice after last time I was here.
What was the last advice?
I thought Boise was going to cover, and they almost did. Well, it wasn't for the kicker.
The Arizona game the last time we were here. Gee, I was like, they should have won. There was a bad call at the end, and I was like, that would have paid off handsomely. I guess it isn't. So you got to go. I know you're almost out of halls.
I am.
Thanks for stopping by again.
No problem.
Lots of fun. Go listen to that 300 episode of the Piffles podcast where they talk to Coach Mace. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Josh Miller. It's a senior hockey report coming up here on the SportsCage, streaming at sportscage.com. Here we are, senior hockey time, senior hockey report from the Monday Nooner fellas here on the SportsCage. Josh Miller joining me again this week with the senior hockey report. Millsy, we talked about it last Friday. It was kind of the get the turkey legs out, guys back firing last weekend, and then this week a sprinkling of games here and there. What did you like, or what was on your radar last weekend?
Thanks, Barn. We talked about it last week. The number 4 team in the Raymore Rockets lost a couple of games last weekend. Oof. First one on Friday night to Belcaris. Not really much of an upset there, just a good battle between 2 good teams. Then the one that kind of surprised me was Milestone on Saturday night, a little slip up there. So interesting to see what the Rockets have moving forward this weekend. And then now that the provincial draws come out last night, where they're going with that team right now. The other one I looked at was Moosomin, red hot in the Big Six. Won a pair of games. They're up to 10-1-1, 1 point behind the Red vs. Rockets for first in the Big Six. And the last one I looked at was Davidson, still undefeated. Won a pair of games Friday night at Lorburn. I guess a really great game. 6-3, the Cyclones win it. I had some buddies that were out there, and they said 2 fast teams, real good hockey game. So Davidson, another team to look out for that last weekend.
Right on. All right, we're gonna get to provincials in a bit. Provincials are released yesterday, last night. Monday Nooner Reveal show, some interesting matches. But let's move to this weekend. And I'm looking at the Big Six, Millsy. And tonight, 8 p.m. in Moosomin, I was out on Cool Bet checking the odds, and the first place Red vs. Rockets are a little bit of an underdog in this one against the Rangers. Is that because of home ice, you figure?
That's 100% the home ice advantage on that one. And word around the league is Moosomin travels well at home, not so well on the road.
There it is. Insider. Also tonight in the Big Six, and I looked at these odds. It's the Red Devils and the Cougars. Now, if you want to sprinkle, Carnduff is a heavy underdog there going into Carlisle.
And a 3.5 goal too. That's I might sprinkle a little bit on that one too. That gives me some good odds there.
So that's Big Six. What else do you got around the listening area?
Let's run it quickly to Sass Valley. Tonight, Craig heading to Beachy to take on the Lucky Lake Beachy Lakers at 8:15 for a little battle there. The QV, big one tonight. Lumsden's in Milestone, but the one that I really actually look forward to, and I'm pretty sure the Monarchs are maybe jumping ahead as well, is a Saturday night tilt with the Bronx in Lumsden. So can Balcarres knock off another top team?
Oh, yeah. That's a measuring stick for both teams, isn't it?
And it's going to lead us into Balcarres' first round matchup with in provincials in the Senior A bracket. We talk about that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Not a Q. We haven't forgot about you. I love the NHL. Not a Q tonight. Rollo hosting Hodgeville. Avonlea hosting Assiniboia, the Avonlea Memorial Rink. Burgers will be good there tonight. La Flèche is in Radville. Cornac in Mossbank. Full slate of games on Saturday as well in the Not a Q.
Which I, again, just like I mentioned in the QV, if I'm the Cornac Merchants, I'm looking ahead to the battle on Saturday night. The top two teams in that league, Assiniboia playing their second road game in Cornac for a 7:30 start. Both teams 10-1-1 or 10. They're both on top of the league at 10-1. So that's the big Saturday night tilt out in that area.
Get your tickets early if you're checking out that one in the Not a Q and in Cornac at the Sportsplex. All right. Do we cover all the leagues? Should we get into provincials? Anything else?
Just quickly, I want to give let's give the Sask East a quick shout out here.
Sure. Let's do it.
Sask tonight, the 4-3 Swan Valley Stampeders heading into the tough Barn in Rokenville to face the 8-0 Tigers for an 8:30 start in that one. That one should be a good matchup out there. And then we always forget about these guys. They're a brand new league around here, the Prairie Men's. Saturday night, all four teams in action. Nothing on Friday night tonight, but Saturday, Cute Bar in Indian Head and Strasbourg is in Ituna. Both 8 o'clock starts there.
We got message yesterday on the SportsCage text line that tomorrow in Ituna, it's actually the big opener for the rink. It's an event. Get there, have fun. Pierogies, buzzing, door prizes, 50-50. Strasbourg's in town. It's going to be the event of the year, even though we just started 2025 in Ituna. That new barn is supposed to be nice, Millsy.
Yeah, I might have to get out there. I've heard that.
While we're here and while we're in the Sask East, Kenora, great senior hockey town. Next Friday, I don't know if we're going to be able to twist your arm and get you to come with us. Boz and I are hosting or emceeing Hockey Day in Saskatchewan at the Kenora Theater or Auditorium. And Marty McSorley's in. Don Chesney's in. We get to have a little hot stove round table with those fellers. Silent auction, great meal. Tickets are $75, still some available in Kenora. And we're doing the SportsCage live from Kenora. Like it's win, and then pierogies is the third win for me.
Like it.
In Kenora. Yeah, lots of fun. Hockey Day in Saskatchewan. You ever been to Kenora?
I have not.
Oh, there we go.
I have not. So, yes.
A reason to go. All right. Like we said, provincial time. Huge. Provincials, small town hockey. When it comes to provincials, like this is like something special. And if you're from Saskatchewan, especially from a small town, you get it. It's exciting. The brackets were revealed. They're down a few teams this year. It kind of fluctuates. They're up overall senior teams, like well over 100 this year. Provincials, I think it's because some teams are joining up with other teams, right, Millsy? You always see that teams kind of and then the one you talked about a couple weeks ago, the big one was in the Long Lake, where Watrous is actually joining up with Drake.
Yeah, and you see that a little bit more. And we talked to Kelly, the Hockey Sask president yesterday, and he mentioned that exact, kind of echoed those same sentiments. And they're looking at something next year to kind of get some of these new teams, new leagues, the smaller towns back into provincials. And maybe hopefully next year when we're talking about this, a year from now, there is the leagues are, the towns are up and the numbers are up. So.
Okay, so let's start in Provincial D quickly. Let's go through a few of the key matchups. Provincial D, the defending champs are the
Macklin Mohawks.
They got Edam in the first round. Lucky Lakes at Looseland, Purdue Delisle, Redvers, Milestone.
That's the one I got circled on my Senior D first round report here is the Redvers Rockets and the Milestone. Milestone was in A last year. Lost a few imports, tried to get into the Nautic Q at the early in the year, didn't get in. and now we're just playing out the league, and they're mid pack in the
Yep.
QV this year.
Yep.
So interesting to see where they get with the Redverse boys.
And then I'm going to give a shout out here also in D. Shout out to QPAR, the Canucks in the, what's the league called again? Sorry, the
Prairie Men's.
Prairie Men's. They're going provincials. They take on Radville in round 1. New mayor, Andy Boha in QPAR. Everything's looking up in QPAR this year. All right, from D, let's go to C. What are you seeing? Who's the defending champ in C?
C's my Wilkie Outlaws boys. They are the defending champs. They get let's go the other way. Let's say that Outlook gets maybe a tough matchup against Wilkie in that first round. Outlook struggling a little bit in the Sask Valley, and Wilkie's second to 2 points or a point behind Kindersley in the Sask West. So, but the one I've got my eye on is Kenora Carnduff.
Oh,
That one is a great matchup, I think. Two great hockey towns. They, again, both had a good little run last year. Kenora lost in the second round last year in C, and Carnduff lost to Kyle in the South Finals. So it'll be, that one's my pick.
top-ranked team in the province, Foam Flyers. They get Hudson Bay, and then Oxbow, Assiniboia also going in a first round in CK. Now, over to B. B's a little bit different. The $5 fill up at KFC and $5 Pizza Hut
Pizza
style.
Hut deal. I like it.
There's only 5 teams in B this year. One dropped out really late, according to Kelly McClintock from Hockey Saskatchewan. But we got some heavy hitters and some good matchups. Davidson, tough. Going to take on Bigger. Tough one there for the Bigger Nationals. The winner of that will play the Kindersley Senior Clippers.
And that's the one I'm looking forward to. I'm looking past. I think Davidson wins that first round fairly easily, although they got to go into a small barn and Bigger. But I'm looking at that Davidson Kindersley matchup as a really going to be might be the provincial final, but let's not take anything away from the other games. The Mooseman and Langenberg on the other side.
Yeah, Mooseman, Langenberg in the other one. These are all best of threes, all the series, best of threes. Keep in mind, provincial, doesn't matter what you're going. Langenberg, Mooseman, get your tickets early for that one. What is it, the Mike Schwain Arena in
Shane? Yep.
In Mooseman, going to be buzzing and hopping. All right, and then A, the Big Daddy. A, this is where you can have as many imports as you want. Call as long as
teams combine.
Yeah, guys are playing in Saskatchewan. They can go if they're out of province. They can't be in a league. Sign them up. Get everyone scared. Sign some big names. Do whatever you want. So we got Drake Lorburn Hafford versus the defending champs from Keniston in round 1, and then Leroy Kyle. They're in. They get a first round bye, but they'll battle in round 2. Leroy Kyle, a real interesting one. What was it, 355 kilometers between those two towns?
355, yes. That's I love a good road trip in provincial time.
Yeah, and then K. So I'm going to let you take it because the one that a lot of people have circled in A, first round. Speaking of getting your tickets and trying to get a spot in the Balcarres bar, and she's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, that's what I have circled down here. Everybody's looking forward to see who gets Round Lake, and the lucky winners are Balcarres this year. I don't count them out. I actually think you're better off getting the Bears maybe early in the provincial run before they get their guys all together and have played together. And some of these guys that they've signed, and we've all seen the social media posts. They if these guys show up, they'll be good, but can they all play together? So. I think it goes 3 games, but I'm not picking a winner.
And then the winner of that goes into Wynyard to take on Wynyard. That'll be round 2. Also in round 1 on that side of the bracket,
which is a real good matchup.
Powerful Lumsden Monarchs against Wadena Wildcats, and then I kind of have this one circled too as a sneaky good one. Yep. Raymore Carlisle.
Raymore loses, first round. Last year to Wynyard. I've heard a rumor they picked up a couple of ex-pro guys that are back. Carlisle loses a 3-game series with Round Lake last year. So they're looking for some redemption. He can make a couple of rounds and make some more gates. That's a great matchup in that one.
It's going to be so good. It's always tough. It's you can go on the Monday Nooner socials if you want to find out more and follow along. We'll also have everything covered here on the Sports Cage. It's a busy time for Senior Millsy, eh?
Love it. Can't wait. I just got a tweet from somebody that asked how many over-under the games I'm going to attend this year in provincials. I don't know. It's going to be a few.
I love it. The Senior Hockey Report on the Sports Cage. It is always brought to you by Future Ford in Melville. The future is Future Ford. Good used units and new units arriving. Check them out online for everything special there. And coolbet.co, like Millsy and I said, you can sprinkle senior hockey style. Go on, have some fun. Play responsibly. Coolbet.co. Millsy, thanks so much, buddy. Let's see how it all shakes down, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, pal. Thanks, everybody.
It is the Senior Hockey Report on the Sports Cage. Time for a quick break. Maybe some time when we get back. It is the all-new Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com. And as always, on the home of sports in Saskatchewan, 620 CKR. Welcome back to the Sports Cage for Nelson Holmes on Friday. As always, building RTMs for over 65 years. Thanks to all of our sponsors here, of course, always on the Sports Cage. Now, hockey in the area. You heard the Senior Hockey Report. We just had that. Hockey in the area this evening. Pats are in Moose Jaw. 6:30 pregame show starts here on 620 CKRM with Dante DeCaria. Lethbridge is in Swift Current. We talked about that earlier. That is an interesting matchup tonight. Talk about a measuring stick for the Swift Current Broncos as the highly powered Lethbridge Hurricanes come into town there with new defenseman Caden Price from Saskatoon on the back end. Saskatoon is in Calgary. There's a test for the Saskatoon Blades right there. PA's in Edmonton, Red Deer's in Medicine Hat. Portland in Brandon. SJHL Melville is in Estevan this evening. Larange travels in to Melfort. Tomorrow, the Benny Walchuk, we talked about the Worth the Drive game of the week for Southie Mainline Chrysler, the new king of trucks in Southeast Saskatchewan, where they have up to $19,000 you can save on 2024 heavy duties right now. Worth the Drive game, he said Yorkton in Melfort tomorrow, SJHL. Melfort's on an absolute heater. What did they won, like 17 in a row? Yorkton up and down as of late, so that's a good one. And then mine, Worth the Drive, is Flin Flon at Humboldt. Sunday afternoon. So Melfort, Humboldt. Maybe if you're bored, you're not doing anything, both of those rinks have swimming pools. Pack the trunks and go watch some SJHL hockey. Get that in. No AAA midget games for the Pat C's this week. They got a nice little break off. Not sure where everyone's going there. Maybe some holiday in there. Prairie Junior Hockey League. Junior B action. Capitals, the Regina Extreme Hockey Capitals are in Assiniboia. 8:15 puck drop tonight in that beautiful barn down in Assiniboia. The All-Star game for the Junior B Loop, the Prairie Junior, North versus South, Rocky 4 style, is in Carrot River. 4 p.m. puck drop tomorrow if you want to go watch the All-Star game. And then senior, we had the Senior Hockey Report, like I said. That I would say that Big Six game, Redvers in Moosomin this evening, where Redvers is plus 110 underdog, even though they're first in the league in Moosomin. Moosomin's good on home ice. 8 p.m. in Moosomin this evening. I am told it is a fantastic facility. They got a bar upstairs. You can watch two of the best teams in the Big Six. And then a shout out in Rokenville. Swan Valley's in town to take on the undefeated Tigers there. And one from the Nautica. Let's give some love in Rollo. Hodgeville is in that beautiful facility in Rollo this evening. It was a good show. Thanks to Greg from the Piffles podcast again for joining us for most of it today. A lot of fun. Next week it gets wild and crazy when it comes to the Sports Cage. Monday we're here. Ryan Pollock allegedly will be co-hosting with me. Tuesday, Wednesday, crop production show in Saskatoon. Back to my hometown, the stomping grounds there. We're broadcasting live from the crop production show. So if you're around, stop in, say hi, shoot the breeze. Let me know what you think. Maybe provincial hockey guy or girl. You want to talk brackets, what's going on there. WHL, big trades. Riders, of course. Jake Mayer in the fold now. So we're there Tuesday, Wednesday. I think as it stands, Derek Bidwell's hosting with me on Tuesday. And Chris Harris on Wednesday. Some guests stopping by will be a lot of fun. Then Thursday, Maz is going to control things as I get my life in order, because Friday we load up the station wagon and head to Kenora, Saskatchewan. Hockey Day in Saskatchewan all weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. The banquet Friday night, Marty McSorley and Don Chesney, the hot stove. Going to be a lot of fun. So that's next week in a nutshell. Colson, thanks so much. Alan, thanks so much again. Thanks to Greg, who is here. 7:45, Pat Blues and Martinsville at the Hamilton. Not many tickets available for that one. Almost sold out. Lots of fun. Thank you very much. It is the Sports Cage. Stay tuned. Pat's Hockey coming up in about half hour. We'll catch you again next week.